On the bank of Martinez, you're talking to Sylvie on the phone, listening to her complaining about your 2-day drunken tirade and harassment towards her. You said sorry for the 10th time today, or was it 11th? You lost count. All you know is, ever since waking up from that horrid hangover with no memory of who you are or what you've done, you've been a bad cop and a worse human being. You need to do something, a method, to get out of this nightmare. A thought emerges.
Rigorous self-critique.
That's one of the plot paths in Disco Elysium, a brilliant CRPG where your own psyche is part of the gameplay. Hi, my name is Nero, a lover of games, psychology, and philosophy. And like the dangerously reflective, pro-level amateur philosopher I am, I was mesmerized by and latched onto those 3 words: rigorous self-critique. I fell in love with the concept. Eventually, I built a personal system around it, one that changed how I reflect, how I choose, and how I live. With this simple system, I managed to know myself better than ever before, and today, I want to share it with you. So, first of all, what is rigorous self-critique? To me, it means taking a hard, honest look at every major part of your life, your relationships, your environment, your daily choices, about their condition, their characteristics, and how you interact with them, and asking, how much of this is my doing? What are my patterns, my flaws, my roles in all of this? You stop blaming. You start seeing with brutal clarity. Although you might be thinking, hey Nero, why does it matter? Why do we need to critique ourselves so hard? It sounds like such an unnecessary and painful process. Well, here's a recently happened story of mine that hopefully helps you see why I believe it will help everyone and more. A couple of months ago, I ended a dragged out 2-year relationship. This is what I said that sealed the deal. I said the truth is, my feeling for you has been diminishing for the past few months, but I was being a coward. I was afraid of how you might react, and the fact it might make me look like a heartless human being, which is inconsistent with the persona that I've been building for myself. She was mad at me, naturally, but at the fact that I was being so honest. There was no angle for her to attack, no lies to unravel. In the end, we stayed friends, because we faced the truth without flinching. And that level of honesty and clarity, it changed me. For a brief moment, I felt like Nietzsche's Übermensch. I overcame myself. Yes, I am misusing the word, but you get the idea. And it gave me such a sense of surmountment, of freedom and liberty. For the first time in a long time, I have the feeling of having my own life in my grasp again. So, this is the system of how to practice rigorous self-critique. The steps you need to take to accomplish it is as follows. Step 1. Be brutally honest with yourself. This is the foundation, the ability to see yourself clearly without distortion, denial, or ego-driven filters. But let's be clear, brutal honesty is not beating yourself up, declaring yourself a failure, dismissing your own worth. Instead, it's facing your actions, intentions, and their impact even when it hurts or is uncomfortable. Owning up to your flaws, laziness, fear, or ego without flinching. Refusing to let ego cloud the truth. Here's an example. You come home from work, you're exhausted, your wife complains about something, and you snap. You yell. No. Instead of the accuse that you're thinking to yourself, I was just tired, say, I chose not to manage my frustration and I hurt someone. I hurt her because she's close to me. I know we won't get divorced over this, but I'm laying the groundwork for one. And all that doesn't justify what I did. Hurting her was still wrong. We need to talk. We need a better way to express our needs and feelings without targeting our emotions at each other. That's brutal honesty. And yes, it's tough. And of course, you're not just being brutally honest. You need something else to be able to see yourself and your actions so clearly, which brings us to step 2. Analyze the motivation and the cost. Most people stop at the behavior, but you need to ask, what was I really feeling? What belief drove that reaction? We need to find the actual reason behind them. In our example, the real emotion isn't anger, it's exhaustion, helplessness, maybe shame. And because you can't find someone else to yell at, the stress gets redirected towards her. The fact that you chose her is also a factor you should analyze. I chose her because she's close to me, because she felt safe to lash out at. This implies she won't leave me because of this, so I can lash out here without major consequences. That is likely not conscious manipulation. It might be just a coping reflex built from a warped sense of emotional safety. You test your partner by venting where you feel safest, but that's corrosive over time. At one point, both of you will snap. Besides all that, another part of this reflection is that there's an unexamined belief hidden there. That is, emotions justify actions. The truth is, it does not. Your emotional state explains what you did, but does not excuse it. Just because you're frustrated or angry does not grant you the right to direct those emotions, shape them into hurtful words or actions, and unleash them on those who did not choose to bear them. Now, the cost of this action is twofold. On the relationship side, repetition of this pattern will create long-term disconnection between you and your partner. Your resentment towards each other builds silently until it explodes. It will put an irreversible scar on your relationship. And by doing so, you're training each other not to be honest anymore. It will also cost yourself, because you know you're violating your own values. You will lose self-respect in that process and fear becoming that person you don't want to be. Shame will follow after the outburst. You try to avoid any relation to it, which means more distance. The cost isn't abstract. It's your life, slowly drifting into a version you never chose. Lastly, while you're trying to do all those steps, don't let it hurt your self-esteem. You need to detach identity from performance. This step is crucial. You are not your mistakes, but you're also not your achievements. Treat your actions as data, not moral verdicts. Seeing your actions as data points rather than moral verdicts helps you critique them without ego defense. If you can't manage that, these steps might lead to self-loathing and low self-esteem, and by no means are those the intention of a rigorous self-critique. In fact, at the end of it, you should have more self-esteem because you have more control of yourself than ever, as aforementioned. So, here's some final thoughts. Rigorous self-critique isn't about punishment. It's about power. The power to understand yourself. The power to break old patterns. The power to make new choices. Deliberately, not reactively. You may never need a therapist to tell you who you are, because you'll know. You'll actually know. In the next video, I'll talk about how to apply this skill to improve your life, relationships, habits, career, all of it. If this video helped you in any way, even a little, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell button, because I'm just getting started. And you are too. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.